If you're thinking about moving and you want to learn about what everyday life is going to be like in your new town, this is the place for you. On Open House, we sit down with local, top producing real estate agents to help you find the best places to live in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So if you don't want buyer's remorse and you want to find your dream town, we are here for you. So go ahead and book a free call with us and we'll help guide you to the area that is right for you. Now, let's jump in and learn about your new home.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Open House. I'm Mike, and today we're going to be talking with Elaine Newman, a local expert in the Centerville, Virginia area. We're going to be covering everything from homes to entertainment. So, Elaine, thanks for coming on the show today. To kick things off, how long have you been in real estate?
I've been in real estate for 22 years. It was not my first career, but my entire career has been in some kind of sales type position. So it was a very, very easy transition to real estate. I sell all over Northern Virginia, but with a focus on Fairfax County.
Gotcha. And so 22 years, we'll say you're a seasoned vet in the market, definitely. How long have you been selling in that area?
22 years.
So okay.
Yeah. Yes,
look.
it's been my whole career. I was with a different brokerage. Now I'm with Berkshire Hathaway, Penn Fed Realty. I've been a top producer, an NBA or top producer pretty much for about 20 years. So, done a lot of different types of real estate. I am, once again, an expert in Fairfax County. Know a lot about a lot of the other areas in Northern Virginia, and I also am I'm an expert in distressed properties as well.
Gotcha. So, what would you say? The population of the area. You're kind of city adjacent, so it's like you're probably a decent size, but because you're far enough on the perimeter of DC, it's probably not quite as hustle and bustle as that area.
Right. The population of Centerville right now is about 74,000 people in Centerville proper. And yes, it is very much a suburb. In fact, it is the furthest west suburb in Fairfax County. So It's right on the Prince William County line. So it definitely has a suburban I wouldn't say rural, but there is a lot of green, and it's a lovely
there's trees and stuff. It's nice.
There are, yeah.
So what would you say, roughly the median home price of the area is?
Well, of course, like everywhere else in the country, and particularly in the DC metro, the prices have gone through the roof in the past 2 years. I do think that we're gonna be going back down to like 2019 prices. So I'll tell you kind of where they are now, but there might be some adjustment in the next few months, I believe. For a single family home, of which there are a lot of, because there are a lot of big subdivisions with single family colonials and or townhouses. Not too many condos in the Centerville area. It's mostly single families and mostly in these planned subdivisions. And I would say that the single families right now range from anywhere between 650 to average to 800,000. Whereas the townhouses, I would say average from between 500 to about 650 right at this time.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Obviously, there's going to be a constant, fluctuation. No, a number you list now probably won't be accurate by the time the center view is done.
Exactly.
So, being in that area, I would imagine there's a large population of commuters, that are that are working in your DC, your Alexandria, those type of areas?
Actually, well, first of all, the pandemic has changed a lot.
Correct.
I personally don't know anybody except for doctors that have gone back to the office because once again, it is an extremely professional, white collar type area in general. And a lot of those people, I think, have now, so maybe they go back to the office a couple of days. I mean, the traffic patterns have definitely changed dramatically since the pandemic. But that said, we actually have quite a few very vibrant work centers in Northern Virginia that are closer to Centerville than DC. So Tyson's Corner, which is a very large, has very large employment base, a lot of companies, a lot of law firms, a lot of government contractors, and Reston as well. So Reston is also a huge, place for a very big place for people to work. And even Fairfax, Fair Oaks area, there are a lot of office buildings, commercial development. So even before the pandemic, yes, some people were commuting to DC, but a lot of people live out in Centerville because they were commuting to one of the closer areas.
Gotcha. And I think, I think on the whole, people are kind of generally speaking putting more of a premium on their peace and quiet and their space, which is why I think you're seeing such an influx to a lot of these DC suburbs, like you said, where people are going, I'm fine with with little amounts of that type of experience. I'm fine dabbling in DC or places like that, but I like to come home to my own space, my peace and quiet. I know my neighbors, that type of feel.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my theory is that once the pandemic started and people realized that they no longer needed to live within walking distance or very close distance to Metro, like in Arlington, Alexandria, places like that, a lot of them said, hey, for what the price of a condo is here, I can move out to, some of the suburban areas where I can commute if I need to, but I can also get a lot more for my money.
Yeah, it's a very nice thing to kind of be city adjacent, where those things that you want are readily accessible. If you want to take a trip to DC or something like that, it's like, okay, it's right there, I can do that. But people are, I guess, putting more of that value on coming home to their own space. And now, yeah, especially with COVID, I mean, if we're going to say, life gives you lemons type situation, that is definitely one of the perks that people realize, like, I don't need to do that. I can live out here. I can still accomplish what I need to accomplish. And I don't need to be in that hustle and bustle of that area.
Right. And on a good day, I can be in DC because it's a straight shot on Route 66, so you can be there in less than a half hour from Centerville on a good day, which there are going to be a lot more good days, because the whole reason that there's been even any, return to some bad traffic patterns is because they've been doing crazy construction along 66 for a few years, building some hot lanes. So that is about to end. I've heard it's going to end before the end of the year. And then I really think that once again, with the really changed commuting patterns, because even if people are going in, I feel like the hours are different. We're definitely not having like the traditional rush hours that we used to have. So I think it's going to be a lot more pleasant, even when you do have to go into DC.
Yeah, in my mind, if I can maneuver anywhere in DC in a half hour, it's like the equivalent of 5 minutes in DC time.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
So another thing I know that young me didn't really understand this, but old me has we'll say a different perspective on things. A lot of people are also making decisions about where they live and where they choose to lay their head based on their children, based on the schooling, based on the education that they want for their children. What does that look like in the area?
Right. So the beauty of Centerville is that it's still in Fairfax County. Fairfax County has one of the highest scoring school systems, definitely in Virginia. I'm sure it's the highest in Virginia, but I think one of the highest in the country because, Fairfax County, once again, there's a fair amount of affluence and a lot of professionals. And so there are 2.5 high schools, pyramids, that service Centerville. One is Centerville High, and that is on the south side of Route 29, near kind of not far from Clifton area. Clifton and Centerville kind of meld into each other at one point. And then there's Westfield, which is the main high school for most of Centerville. Westfield, I believe, still is the largest high school in Virginia. Pure high school. I mean, it's not a campus with a middle school and an elementary school, but it's an excellent high school. And test scores very high. There's all kinds of, you can take all kinds of AP courses, and it's competitive, which is good for getting into the best schools, but also they take a percentage in Virginia of the kids, and that is a very so it winds up being a relatively competitive school, I think. But great sports programs, and then there's Chantilly, which some of the Centerville kids in certain parts are zoned for Chantilly. It's also, each of these schools is within less than 5 miles from either in Centerville or less than 5 miles from Centerville. So yeah, it's a very, there's a lot. And in terms of there are 2 middle schools. So there's Liberty and Stone. And generally Liberty feeds into Centerville and Stone feeds into Westfield. And then elementary schools, I was trying to count, there's at least 7 and maybe 10, literally, because once again, these subdivisions have a big population base. I lived in a subdivision called Virginia Run, and there were, something like 5,000 people living there, all in single family homes. So they have their own elementary school in the subdivision, which it's not their own really, but there are kids so that you really are not going much further than just the community. And then there's another elementary school right across the street from.
Yeah, it's one of those things where and that's another reason to kind of get out of the city, is because when you have an area that's kind of densely packed with schools, but also not densely packed with people, you are inevitably going to be in a better position education-wise, because you've got a better ability to communicate with teachers. You've got a smaller classroom size, so that teacher to student ratio stays where you want it, which is always going to benefit the children. So that's definitely like something that people really look into and dive a lot into as far as metrics and stuff, to make sure that they're making a good decision for their family going forward.
Yeah, I feel like, if you look at the Fairfax County school educational system on the whole, it's very, very impressive. Very impressive.
So another thing, because of its location, I'm sure that also means that on the entertainment side of things, there's a lot to do. I have a feeling that there's no shortage of your bars, your restaurants, your wineries, distilleries, all of that type of thing, and probably also a good mix of locally owned stuff as well, which I think a lot of people really value.
Yeah, in Centerville proper, there are definitely some restaurants, some excellent restaurants. There's not really a center to Centerville like there are to some of the others, like Reston, for example, with Reston Town Center. But there is one winery. There are only 2 wineries in Fairfax County, and one of them is in Centerville. It's right on the border of Prince William County, and it's called Bull Run Winery. And so that is, right there. It's a lovely winery. They have all kinds of different, they have music and all kinds of stuff going on. Beyond that, everything is very close. So you're in Reston in 20 minutes. Reston has, a ton of stuff going on. You're at Wolf Trap in 20 minutes. So I would say more drawing Tyson's, where there all these places, there are world-class restaurants, there are, all kinds of theaters, all kinds of, places for concerts. George Mason, which is in Fairfax, but is pretty much on the border of Centerville. It's very, very close. So George Mason, of course, is not just a great university, but it also has a big theater and a really huge sports program. So once again, 15 minutes and you're at George Mason. So, lots of stuff, not so much in Centerville proper, but in all of the surrounding areas. Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing I kind of like about that area is something that I didn't think I would be saying in my lifetime is I thoroughly enjoy Virginia wines, which is a very strange thing to say, because in my head I'm going, if it doesn't say Sonoma or Napa Valley, why am I even bothering? And me as a Marylander, I go, Virginia is like the stepbrother. We don't talk about Virginia. But then I had some friends kind of introduce me and say, hey, check this stuff out. And you don't have to go that far into Virginia to get some really beautiful scenery and some great wine out there.
Yes, and Centerville is along the Route 29 wine corridor. So if you stay on Route 29, you're in Charlottesville in an hour and a half, and from Centerville. And basically all along that route, there are all kinds of wineries. Those are like the Fauquier County wineries, but you've also got Loudoun County, which is huge for wineries as well. And even Loudoun County, from Centerville, you're in Loudoun County in 15 minutes, because once again, it's all the way west. So it's right on the border of Prince William County, but it's also very, very close to the eastern border of Loudoun County as well.
Yeah, that also, when you talk about scenery and stuff like that, the same thing applies to your trails, your hiking, your kind of outdoor adventures, your lakes, your rivers, all that stuff, your kayaking, it's all there. A short hop, skip, one direction or another, and it's going to get you where you want to go.
Exactly. Bull Run Regional Park is actually in Centerville, and it's a very, very large park, and Cub Run runs right through it, and that runs into the Occoquan River, which is also in Fairfax County, a part of it, but not actually in Centerville. But there's beautiful trails, all kinds of picnic facilities. There's a pool. I mean, there's a lot of great, facilities at Bull Run, and it's absolutely beautiful. And then beyond that, yes, once again, in Manassas, and as you go further out in Prince William County, there's a ton of parks, trails. We have the W&OD biking trail. Biking is very, very, very popular in this whole area. And that does not go through Centerville, but goes through Fairfax County. And it basically it's an old rail trail. It goes from Arlington to Percival. And from Centerville, you're in, probably the closest is Vienna, and that is 15-minute drive, and you're on the W&OD trail. So really wonderful.
Another thing that I always find kind of fun, whether I'm visiting a city or just taking a day trip to explore places, is especially when you talk about Virginia, there's such a dirge of history in the area that I always find it fun, because most of these cities, no matter how small or large, have a lot of kind of historical stuff to discover, because inevitably, if you look at Virginia, something historical happened everywhere. And so I always find that kind of fun to search out and explore, to learn more about the area.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as I mentioned, Centerville pretty much borders Manassas, and it was literally the westernmost part of Centerville is maybe a half a mile from Manassas Battlefield Park, which is a very big Civil War There were many battles there. There's still a lot of ruins and historical remnants of the battles and of the homes that were there. And so you do see there's a lot of the streets and the roads are named after Civil War, figures. So it is a very historical place. Like, you never know where you're going to see some ruins of an old bridge or something like that. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I always find that stuff really neat. It's like kind of like a little bonus feature when you go to an area to explore and figure out. Is there anything else in the realm of, kind of local events that happen in the area, be it, your fairs, festivals, things of that nature?
I once again wouldn't, and there might be a Centerville Day once a year. I wouldn't really say there are, but Wolf Trap is an incredible, thing. There's live music. I mean, Fairfax County parks generally have many of them, which once again, you're talking, you're 20 minutes to Burke, there's Burke Lake Park. So a lot of these places have free music festivals during the summer. And even if it's not right in Centerville, that's the beauty of living in such a central location in Fairfax County, is that there is so much going on.
If you could kind of give one piece of advice to someone thinking about, potentially moving to the area, what would that advice be?
As I said, most of Centerville is planned communities. So you have to like that. And these communities are, they have all the amenities. So, they have pools and trails and tennis and pickleball courts. And so, it's a wonderful place for families because they all have swim team, and it's a very good way to get to know your neighbors when you're new in a place, when it's when there's kind of like a central meeting location, a community center, and all that. So I would really look first at all the different communities and decide where you want to live. And also, if schools are important to you, research the specific schools, which high school pyramid they feed into, and then decide. And of course, you want to, what I usually do with clients when they tell me they're looking in an area is I set up a search with their criteria. And then, pricing criteria is obviously very important. And then we narrow it down. I say, you need to go and drive and see all of these areas. And then we can narrow it down as to which areas, really, which areas you prefer. So that's what I would say is, take some time, do your research, get to know it. Because, you might think one colonial looks like another. They're all on a quarter to a half acre, But I think
one piece of advice that I like to give people, and I think enough people don't kind of take advantage of, is I say go on vacation. I say find an area, find a place that you're thinking about, go there, spend some time there, spend some days, get an Airbnb, whatever it is, and kind of spend some time immersing yourself in an area to see if it kind of gels with what you're looking for. And I think people kind of do that, and like you said, they'll do their drive arounds, they'll kind of do this, it's almost like a distance learning thing where I'm like, no, get in there, spend some time, hang out, maybe meet some people, meet some residents. Obviously anyone who lives there is going to be a wealth of knowledge. And so that's one piece of advice that I give that I think more people should kind of take advantage of.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think for me, the second thing is don't undervalue having a good agent, because it's a situation where this person is helping you make a very grandiose decision in the scope of your life. You want someone that you trust to be on the same page as you. And I think a lot of people think a real estate agent is a real estate agent, but unfortunately, that is not the case. You need to be able to communicate your wants, your needs, and have them reciprocated back, where it's like, okay, we have an understanding. I'm going to be the advocate you need in this area.
Right. And I think it's very important to have an agent that's an expert in the area. And that doesn't mean that's the one that has all the signs up, because, what you don't want to be is a numbers game, but you want to be with somebody who really has a very, very good working knowledge of the area, who, they don't have to live in the area, but they have to have sold there before and have experience. And also, my approach is I'm very client centric. So I just look at it as from the time that we join forces, I am a partner in every way with my buyers or sellers. And yes, a lot of people think, oh, when the market was so crazy, it didn't matter who your agent was. Not true. And now that the market has slowed a bit, very not true.
Yeah. Yep.
So, no matter what the market conditions, you need somebody who knows the area, is going to completely be there with a focus on you and your needs, and somebody who's a great negotiator as well.
Gotcha. Well, Helene, thanks for taking the time to share your knowledge of the Centerville area with us today. I really appreciate it. I think we all learned quite a bit here. If you're interested in the Centerville area, make sure to check out Helene's information in the contact below to help her facilitate your smooth buying experience going into your next home. So, Helene, thank you for being here.
Thank you.